Imagine a war so vast it lasted nearly 200 years. Not one battle, not one king, not even one generation. Knights crossed thousands of kilometers to fight in lands they'd never seen. Empires rose and kingdoms collapsed. Hundreds of thousands of people died. This was the Crusades, and by the end of this, you'll understand why almost nobody who started this war lived to see how it actually ended. By the end of the 11th century, Jerusalem stood as one of the most sacred cities on earth, holy to Christians as the site of Christ's crucifixion, and holy to Muslims as one of Islam's most revered places. For generations, European pilgrims had traveled there in relative peace, but shifting power in the Middle East made that journey increasingly dangerous, and the Byzantine Empire, under mounting pressure from Seljuk Turk forces, appealed to Western Europe for military help. In 1095, Pope Urban II delivered a speech that would change the course of history, calling Christian knights not just to aid Byzantium, but to march east and reclaim Jerusalem itself. Thousands answered, driven by faith, ambition, land, or simple adventure. The First Crusade had begun. Against nearly every expectation, the Crusaders actually succeeded. After years of grueling marches, starvation, disease, and brutal combat, they captured Jerusalem in 1099. The victory stunned both Europe and the wider Islamic world. New Crusader kingdoms rose across the region. To Europeans, it felt like a miracle. To the Muslim rulers who'd lost the city, it was an occupation demanding to be reversed. This was only the opening chapter of a conflict that would stretch for generations. Before we go further, if this kind of deep history interests you, hit subscribe so you catch what's next. Nearly a century later, one leader transformed the entire war. His name was Saladin, and unlike many rulers before him, he managed to unite much of the fractured Muslim world under a single banner. In 1187, his forces crushed the Crusaders at the Battle of Hattin, and Jerusalem soon fell back into Muslim hands. The news stunned Europe. Kings who had never even met one another began preparing a new expedition. The Third Crusade was about to begin. The Third Crusade brought together some of Europe's most powerful monarchs, including England's Lionheart, who became legendary for his battlefield skill. But despite several hard-fought victories, Richard never managed to retake Jerusalem itself. Instead, he and Saladin negotiated a truce. Christian pilgrims would once again be allowed to visit the Holy City peacefully. Neither side had achieved total victory, and the larger conflict simply continued. As the decades wore on, the Crusades grew increasingly complicated. Some campaigns never even reached Jerusalem at all. The Fourth Crusade shocked the world when Crusaders, diverted by politics and debt, turned their weapons on a Christian city instead of a Muslim one, capturing and looting Constantinople, capital of the Byzantine Empire they'd originally set out to help. Rather than uniting Christianity, the Crusades were now actively dividing it. Political ambition and money had increasingly replaced the religious cause that started it all. Over time, the Crusader kingdoms grew steadily weaker, and Muslim forces reclaimed city after city. Finally, in 1291, Acre, the last major Crusader stronghold in the Holy Land, fell. After nearly 2 centuries of conflict, the Crusades in the Middle East had effectively ended. The dream of permanently holding Jerusalem was over. So who actually won? The answer isn't simple. The Crusaders ultimately failed to permanently hold Jerusalem, but Europe itself was transformed. Trade expanded between East and West. New ideas, technologies, and knowledge traveled back with returning Crusaders. The Islamic world changed too, with new leaders and military strategies emerging from 2 centuries of conflict. The Crusades didn't just redraw borders on a map, they reshaped entire civilizations on both sides. If this story taught you something new, subscribe and share it. There's a lot more history like this coming. Nearly 200 years, millions of lives touched. Kings, sultans, knights, pilgrims, and merchants all pulled into one of history's longest religious conflicts. The Crusades were never simply about Jerusalem. They became a struggle over faith, power, politics, and survival, and their consequences still echo today in the history of Europe, the Middle East, and the relationship between civilizations. Because sometimes a war doesn't end when the fighting stops. Sometimes its consequences echo for centuries.